Hello and welcome to OBS Obsessed, the show about OBS Studio. My name's John Lacey. Today on the show I'm going to be answering your OBS Studio questions. We are hopefully going out live to all the various places, so if you are watching live, let me know where you're watching from. I'm just going to double check something really quickly on YouTube just to make sure that I am in fact going live because, something weird happening in the background. There we go. I am sort of going live, so that's awesome. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. If you do have questions about OBS Studio, today is a great time to ask them. I will do my best to try to answer those. But otherwise, what I will do is I'm just going to go through YouTube comments and Facebook pages and just see what people are asking about and what we can explore. So that's the agenda for today. Let me just... Okay, cool. You can indeed see me. Thank you, Business Growth Ready. Thank you. I've got to press an extra button for this particular stream to show my comments, and what do you know, that's not working, so that's always a great start. Chat overlay. So I guess, you know, if anybody knows this channel, you'll probably realize that I haven't been here for a little while, but and I was very keen to come back today because I thought if I don't come back today, I may never come back. And my chat isn't working, which is really, really annoying. Give me 5 seconds to see if I can fix that. So anyway, you know, it'll be great to see if I can actually fix my own problems here. Chat overlay. So, okay. So my chat overlay on this particular thing is in its own little scene. So let me just go to that really quickly. Okay, so yes, there we go. All right, so let's make sure I'm actually on the right one. Turn off studio mode. See you. There we go. Okay, from Birmingham on the iPad. Great to have your company today. And hello to Stefan. Hi, John. Just popping in. Have a great weekend. Yeah, great to see you. All right, awesome. So hopefully that will work now. So what we're going to do today, I'm just going to answer OBS Studio questions, just show you things that I think are interesting. If you have specific questions, throw them in the chat and let me know. But let's actually just head over to the old screen share. This is obsproject.com. This is the place where all the magic happens. This is where we can download the software, and it is free and open source software. You can get this for Windows, Mac, and Linux. And if you do just want to download it and install it, this is the place to start. You can literally click on one of these and download it. If you're looking for something a little bit more particular, if you go up to this download option at the top of the screen, we do have a whole bunch of different options. So again, you can choose the operating system that you're working with, Windows, Mac, or Linux. And we can download installers, we can download zip files. Zip files are actually really good if you want to run a portable version of OBS, which is something I do quite a lot of. And I don't know if Business Growth Ready, if you have the same problem, but I have so many portable versions of OBS Studio, I'm struggling to remember which is which at this point in time, but that's okay. The other thing that's really great about OBS is that once we've installed it, we've got it up and running, we have the forum, which has a lot of really useful information in here. So we have studio support. If you've got questions, you can ask them in here as well. And maybe this will be another place I can potentially mine for some questions today. We've got our guides. So let's check out the guides, because I think these are really potentially quite useful. How to set up an instant replay in OBS Studio, for example. OBS Studio, color space, color format, color range settings, etc. Test charts. That sounds really nerdy, but it sounds like something that I would probably be into. So, submitted a new resource here. Whole bunch of spoilers. Okay. So that is really technical. That's probably a little outside of the scope of what we're looking at today. But I did just want to note that this is here because I don't think people know it's here. And there is actually a lot of good stuff in here to check out. So that's the guides. Let's go back to the forums. We also have the plugins, which is, you know, a great source of joy for a lot of us. We've got themes. Themes are really for how you want OBS Studio to look. So if I go to one of my portable versions of OBS, and if we go to the file menu and go to settings, we can actually go to appearance, and we have different themes here. So you can install other themes, but within certain themes, you do also have different styles. So a lot of people don't like the fact that OBS Studio is this black box, but if you wanted to make it light and bright, we could choose the light option, and that will completely change how that looks. There are a few other options in here, but we can actually also, in fact, I really like that classic. Looks really nice to me. I don't think it's the default, but I think I might leave it on that, because I like the grays. I don't know about you, but I find if I use software in dark mode, I really struggle to sort of differentiate sections. Like every app in dark mode looks the same to me, and maybe that's just my eyes. But anyway, those are options. But we do also have the ability to actually download some other themes. So if you wanted OBS to look different, let's check out this one, for example. Click to expand, read more about this resource. So you could have it pink and white if you really wanted to, or chocolate. Yeah, so I mean, again, I don't know that that's the most exciting thing to do. And the other thing I do notice is this particular theme has a very interesting font choice. I'm not sure I would get involved in that myself, but it's there. It's there if you were interested. Oh, that's rough. So Business Go 30 writes, I did have one portable version of OBS on the C drive, however, lost everything as the NVMe failed after 5 years yesterday. Yeah, that's kind of rough. Hello, Saeed. Long time no see. How have you been? Great to have your company today. So today we're just exploring things, and again, I haven't been here in a couple of weeks, and I just felt like I needed to come on and talk about different things. So we're going to look at different OBS things. If you've got questions, even if, and I know we do have some very seasoned OBS users in the chat, so if you've got comments or tips you guys want to share, please include those as well. So we've got the guides, we've got the themes, we also have tools and scripts. So, very specific things in here, actually. Church verse, doc, and cinematic Bible overlay, lower third, scripture display. And I know this is a common use case, actually, for OBS Studio, as a lot of people do use it for churches. Instant replay, macro deck, lyric display, if you want to do some production/streaming software. To me, that sounded a lot like karaoke, but maybe that's something else. I don't know. So we've got other things in there. Those are the tools, and we do have scripts as well. I actually don't do a lot with scripts. In fact, there was one script that I like using, but it does play up for me a little bit. But anyway, we will explore scripts in a future show. Okay, so yeah, Saeed mentions that he downloaded version 32.1 the other day. No big changes, but some small improvements. And I think the source sort of media selector on that is really interesting. And I think, let me just go back here for a second. I think I do also have a portable version of that installed on my computer. Let me just see if I can find it quickly. So 32.1 beta 2. Hopefully my computer can deal with the fact that I'm running 3 different versions of OBS at once, but it is pretty spec'd up, so hopefully it'll be alright. Okay, so let's go back and share this. So OBS Studio 32.1.0 release candidate 1. So there is a further update that I could potentially do. I guess... So scenes and sources, and I don't remember, maybe I did this, or maybe this is just how this defaults in this version. It's probably not how I would normally arrange my scenes and sources, but for argument's sake, if I go in and I go to my sources, let me just grab, I just need to throw something in here. So what I can do is if I go and find some files, in fact, what I might do, let's go to documents. I'm just doing this on another screen you can't actually see. I'm just going to grab some thumbnails from this show. And I'm just going to drag these on here. Got 7 of them. And I'd probably resize them. But I think one of the things that is actually interesting is if I go and add a new scene and say new scene. And if I go and add in a new source, we actually get this new dialog box. So it'll actually show me some of the existing ones that are already in here. So I can see them visually and not just as their names. It is worth noting too that just dragging and dropping these in will bring in the file name as the OBS name, but you can go in and change that as well. So if I wanted to, I can come in and grab that and put that there. There are some different things happening with the audio mixer in this version, and to be honest, I haven't really had that much time to explore this, and maybe Saeed could tell us more about that. But yeah, so I guess the main difference here is that we have the ability to show different things. So I can say show hidden sources, show inactive sources, keep hidden sources to the right, or keep inactive sources to the right. And again, I haven't really set up any audio here, so there's not much to play with at this point in time. Yep, and as Saeed notes, it has ROC status, so I think it will be available to update soon. Yeah, absolutely. And it is one of those things that I'm still kind of rocking a very old version of OBS. I say that I'm rocking 31.1.2 for my main installation, and I kind of just need to port everything over to a portable version as a backup before I do anything, because I'm just nervous. And to be honest, in all the time I've been using OBS, it's only been a problem one time. But I'm just a bit nervous about this because I have invested a lot of time into some of these scene collections that I use for my different shows. All right, so that's OBS 32, and it's going to be interesting. I'm curious what other features they have, but again, a couple of different things to keep in mind. So we have the scripts, and I guess the place that I think for me is often the most fun is the plugins. So again, periodically, what I will do is I will just come in here and I'll make sure my filters are sort of sorted by last message, I think. I don't know. I sort of look at the ones that have been updated recently. So this one is 45 minutes ago, 52 minutes ago. And I am really curious to see what these do. And a couple of weeks ago, I did actually do a whole show on Vinci Flow, which is a lower thirds plugin, which was really interesting. I think they're still developing it. I think there's still a lot going on there, but it was definitely worth checking out. And that's kind of the reason I like to have these portable versions, because I really want to test out one of these plugins before I commit to adding it to my main installation, because potentially there can be bugs, but also it may just not be something that I particularly want to use moving forward. And I guess with the more recent versions of OBS, we do literally have an option now that I think it's in the... Is it in the tools? Where is it? Maybe it's not in the version I'm running. In fact, let me go back to the portable version. Yeah, so if you go to Tools and you go to Plugin Manager, this will actually show you all the plugins that have been installed here. And if you are finding one that's buggy or causing problems, you can literally just click it, deselect it, click OK, and then restart OBS. And it's still there, but it's not active. And I think that's really, really useful. This ATK audio plugin for OBS, I have a feeling that was something I was trying to work with the ASIO audio for a little while, but it needed updating every 2 or 3 days, and it just drove me nuts. So I just disabled that. But I think that's a really good thing, because I think if you do need to rebuild, your installation, maybe it's on a different computer, maybe it's a backup somewhere, maybe it's a portable version. I love the fact that we can easily see what plugins we've got here and sort of go and grab them again and install them. I think that works out really, really well. So in a lot of ways, you know, and I know this is one of Saeed's favorite, composite blur, which literally will just blur things. And I know that doesn't sound terribly exciting, but you know, you can sort of set up the old Stream Deck button, and he often does this thing where he sneezes and then presses the button without people realizing, and suddenly he's pixelated and everything else is the same as it was. So that's really fun. All right, so I don't know that I'm answering a lot of questions. So what I might do, I'm just going to go over here. And again, I realize the couple of people in the chat right now probably don't have questions. They probably know more than I do when it comes to OBS stuff. But I'm just going to go to Facebook and I'm just going to type in OBS Studio. And I'm going to check out what people are talking about in these particular groups. And I guess the thing that I would probably say about asking questions in Facebook groups is the more specific you can be, the better it is for everybody involved. And I realize often people experiencing problems don't have the language to sort of articulate what they're experiencing, but yeah, it's probably a good idea to sort of think about it, include screenshots. It's that classic sort of IT support thing where if you don't give me any information, I really struggle to be able to give you any advice. So one thing I will say, actually, because it did come up recently, somebody commented on one of my YouTube shorts about using the image slideshow, and they sort of said that, in fact, I'm sure I have an example probably here. I don't know what this looks like. Okay, cool. And I guess what they were saying was that unless they physically selected this, they couldn't move between slides. And I guess on some level that's true, because these options to press these buttons do appear when you've got that selected. But what they were referring to specifically was the hotkeys. And you really should be able to do that. So a couple of things to check if that is the case. And I realize I'm talking and demonstrating things and I don't have my screen share on. So let me just fix that. So yeah, so what they were describing is that unless they actually physically have this selected, they weren't able to move between slides. And again, it's kind of true in the sense that we don't have these plus forward buttons here. So if you wanted to actually use this with the buttons and the mouse, you kind of do need that to be selected. But what they were reporting was their hotkeys weren't working. And I guess the things that you probably want to check is just go to the file menu, go to settings, go to advanced, and go right down to the bottom and just check on the hotkey focus behavior. This probably should be never disable hotkeys. I think this is supposed to be the default, but I keep experiencing people, I keep coming across people that have other options here. So just double check that is the case. And I mean, I think some people look at that and go, that's a really weird option to give you. But I think there are probably use cases in which you wouldn't want them active. But check that that's the case. And then after you do that, if you go back into the settings, go to the hotkeys, and I usually just search for next. And in fact, we've got Control-Shift-N seems to be the option now. So I haven't got this selected. I can go Control-Shift-N, and then I can go between those. And I'm guessing maybe Control-Shift. No. I should have looked up the previous option as well while I was in there, but let's do that quickly. Okay, I haven't set one up. So I'll go Control-Shift-B. I'll do that for both of them. It's worth noting here that this is actually noting that we're using the same hotkey for both of these, and that could be a problem, but for my example, I'm not going to stress about that. So now I can go next, and I can go previous. And again, that's even more satisfying when you actually have a Stream Deck button, because it's just one of those things that I love a Stream Deck button. Hotkey shortcuts are really good, but you've got to remember what they are, and that can be a challenge for some of us. All right, so I'm gonna talk about something that I think I'm genuinely curious to hear the opinions of people in here, and I don't I may not even have an example of this. Let me just check. No, I don't think I've got an example of this on here. One of the things that I find a little confusing, and I kind of understand why it is the case, but I just think it's a problem. And even in that portable version of 32, like often the first default scene selection will have desktop audio and sort of your mic input. And I don't know, something about that always feels problematic to me, because people will select these things, and the minute you have your own live stream playing in the background, that's being picked up by the desktop audio. I like to be a lot more granular in terms of my audio sources, so I can actually go and say, hey, I want my mic active in this scene, but I don't want it active over there. And I mean, a classic example, I have a little video that plays at the beginning and end of this show, and I don't want my mic live at that point in time because I'm probably anxiously muttering something to myself while I'm trying to prepare. So yeah, and the interesting thing is, the minute you go to create a new scene selection, that those defaults seem to disappear. So that's usually what I like to do, and I think I've already done that in this portable version of OBS, so I can't even really demonstrate it here. All right, what else have we got over here? In fact, what I'm gonna do, just because I'm curious, I'm probably setting myself up to fail here because I don't know that I can necessarily answer these questions, but I'm curious to see what people are asking on the forum. There's a lot of people asking about lags. Yeah, and say, yeah, thank you. That's awesome. So the first thing I disable are the global audio sources in the settings. Yeah, I think that's a good approach. I think it's genuinely kind of, and I think that the reason they do it is to make life easier for beginners, but I think it can be confusing. I think it can lead to problems further down the track. But yeah, so a lot of people, the thing is, people always report issues with lag in live streaming, and unless you've got amazing internet, it's always going to be a bit of a problem. And even on my streams, it's not always apparent to me how long before my stream actually starts. And I think what I've noticed lately is if I watch the recordings, I'm often halfway through my intro video when the video starts, which is incredibly annoying. And I probably do need to improve my internet connection. I probably need to upgrade that. But I guess the other thing too is, wherever possible, make sure that you're physically connected to the internet, that you're not relying on Wi-Fi, because that can be a little patchy. I know that can be very difficult, and you know that potentially might mean you need some very long Ethernet cables from your router to your computer. There are some other ways of doing that, which I think are definitely worth exploring. But I think a lot of us, we just need to be okay with the fact that there will be that lag, there will be that delay. And that was one of the big problems I had when I first started, was that I would literally just say goodbye or include my last point, and I would hit the stop stream button, and the minute I would do that, it would kill the stream, and that last sentence often wouldn't make it to the people that were in the audience or the recording afterwards. So again, just having a place where you can sort of build in some delay and have some things there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know it's tricky, so maybe we need to have a whole show about this. Business Growth Ready writes, I too disable a microphone globally. However, I know non-experts would have no audio. Yeah, it is tricky. And I guess that's another thing, and I'm curious if I can remember where I've installed that. Just give me 1 second. I actually use Restream to send out my connection to various places, like different destinations, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. And they have a plugin now, which I honestly believe is built on the Atom Vertical source code, but they really don't like it when I say that. And essentially, it'll let you do a horizontal and YouTube, a horizontal and vertical YouTube stream at the same time. And I actually tried to install that and it overrid the vertical plugin in my OBS, and I didn't really like that, so I sort of got rid of it. But I reached out to them, just asked if there's a zip file version that I can experiment with, and I haven't heard back from them yet, but I only asked that question a little while ago. So that was something I was playing with, and I was hoping to do that in a portable version, and it wouldn't let me. It literally didn't ask me where my installation of OBS was. It just defaulted, and it wouldn't let me change that, which is kind of annoying. But I guess the other thing that I was playing with, and I'm curious if Saeed, or Business Growth Ready, whose name I probably should know by now, but I don't know that I do. Although I'm sure I see it on LinkedIn all the time, because I see your Thai videos. So anyway, long story short, is that the other thing I've been playing with is Atom's Stream Suite, which is really interesting, but I don't think it's going to replace anything for me right now. So let me just share this. So what you do actually is you have your version of OBS, and then you drag, in my case, they had a zip file specific, or it might have been an installer, I don't really remember. Actually, no, I think it was a zip file, because I did have to manually drag things over, but you literally copy and paste the files into the OBS installation, and it sort of changes how OBS works in a lot of different ways. The thing that I genuinely kind of struggled with, though, is that I'm not really, like, I've got my... And in fact, it might have been a glitch, because it looks like it might be working now, but... so you can see that I've got the Rodecaster audio here. If I go to the blank scene, and it's gone. Okay. So the thing that I was struggling with, and it might have just been a momentary glitch because it seems to be working right now, is that I couldn't physically see my audio sources in my sources, and that was making me very nervous. And I guess the other thing too was I did some test recordings and they sounded terrible, and I couldn't quite figure out why. So I think in some ways, like, they do give you the horizontal canvas, they do give you the vertical canvas, and I think there are options to sort of, well, these are pretty standard OBS options. I don't know. I think they do have the ability to add sort of other canvases. So yeah, if I click this, oh, that's a dock. Okay. Oh, yeah, up here, add canvas. So essentially, you can have as many canvases as you like, as much as your computer can support, and then you can sort of decide where they want to go to, and if it's a vertical stream or, you know, what the destination is. So I did have a bit of a play with this, and I think I need to have a bit of more of a play with this and maybe watch some YouTube videos, because it looked interesting, but it kind of made me nervous. And again, another question I'll put to the stream: how do we feel about vertical live streams? Because they're kind of the new hotness at the moment. In no small part because Ecamm have finally released a feature to let people do that. So all the Ecamm people are doing that. But to be really honest, I don't know that a vertical live stream is gonna do anything exciting for my audience. I don't think it's like... And I use the Atom vertical plugin all the time just to get a vertical recording that I can use to cut up shorts. But I'm not that enthused, to be honest, about vertical live streaming. But again, I'm not watching on my iPad, so maybe you know, maybe guys know something. I don't. But anyway, let's check into the comments. My mouse is being weird. It's always a great sign. So Saeed writes, I like to create an audio scene, add my mics and other audio inputs there, and then add this scene where I need it. Okay, it's an interesting approach. I must admit, and Business Growth Ready has done a number of videos about his setup, and you guys seem to use a lot more sources than I do, and I don't know, maybe it's just my little brain can't keep up with all of that stuff. Yeah. So Saeed also writes, okay for talking heads with not much interaction, but if you open the chat, it will cover 1/3 of the stream, etc. Yeah, that's certainly something I've experienced as well. And I think it's interesting because a lot of like different platforms seem to lend themselves to different types of live streams, and often on TikTok, for example, like literally nothing will happen. It's literally just social chatting and sort of reading out people's usernames as they enter the stream. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. And again, Business Growth Ready writes, it's a necessary evil, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm really curious to see if I can use the Restream implementation of this at some point, but you know, I don't know that. I'm for the people who I've seen do this in recent weeks. I don't know that it's worth splitting the audience. And I guess the other thing I don't know about YouTube specifically is what happens to those vertical live stream recordings after they've sort of been and gone. Because I guess that's the thing about them, is they can potentially pop up in the shorts feed for people just randomly scrolling, and then maybe a new person will discover you in a way that they haven't previously. I don't know. It's a tricky one. All right, so I don't know. I probably should play, but every time I go to play, I think, is there really much point? All right. Try to do a tech tutorial in vertical, doomed to fail. Okay. That was said. Business Growth Ready writes, they normally don't watch it on my iPad. Oh, I'm assuming you mean you don't normally watch it on your iPad. I prefer my 32-inch computer screens. I have been rebuilding Windows, so it keeps rebooting and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, sure. Because you have had some sort of hard disk issue this week, which is unfortunate. Yeah, okay, cool. So I'm curious, and I guess one of the things that encouraged me to do this week, and I didn't think of opening that particular tab. Maybe I should. Somebody I know from YouTube, from years and years and years ago, has recently started a new job, and they knew both Sam and I, and they've been using OBS, I guess essentially to do software tutorials for Microsoft products. And they've been really keen, and because they know both Sam Proof and myself, they've been asking us millions of questions. And I guess what was funny to me, and I guess I'd been feeling a little bit burnt out, because I feel like, what could I possibly say about OBS Studio that I haven't possibly said like a million times before? And that's kind of why I took a few weeks off. But this person kept asking questions, and I was like, here's a YouTube video, here's links to an article. Like, I've got all this stuff. I just don't think people can find it very well. So that was kind of funny. But it is exciting when you do encounter somebody who's new and really keen to learn more. And I guess, you know, I really only use a small handful of tools in OBS, and they work really, really well for me. Like, I'm not really pushing the envelope by any stretch of the imagination, but I just find these things really helpful. And like, even something as basic as an image slideshow, I think has a lot of power. And I think people don't really think about how they might use that. And again, depending on your use case, if you are giving a presentation about Microsoft PowerPoint every other week, to build that out as a scene collection and have it ready to go. And maybe you do have some elements of that are image slideshows or just straight up images, and maybe you're in the corner talking about them, and then have the ability to actually do a window capture or display capture to demonstrate some things live. I think it's really powerful, and I was kind of a bit frustrated because everywhere I went, people were like, OBS Studio is scary and hard, and I'm like, it really isn't. It really isn't, guys. Like, I know people keep telling you this, and often the people that are telling you this are the people that sell competitor products. And I don't wish to be unkind, but I also can't go through an entire week without seeing somebody using Ecamm who completely screws up their comments. Although, you know, I hate to change the visibility of mine today, so maybe I shouldn't go there today. But, you know, it's just a powerful piece of software, and I think if you do invest a little bit of time learning it, it can be incredibly powerful. All right, so I'm going to close out of the Atom Stream Suite version of OBS, because that's a whole other discussion for another time. Let's just have a look at yeah. And again, I guess the other thing too is if you are having problems, some general things I see on the Facebook groups especially is people are using very esoteric hardware. And these are things that I've never heard of in my life. And I'm very across like a lot of products. And I think, yeah, just... And again, this is something I'm probably a little bit hypocritical about because like I will go out and buy the Elgato, I can't even think of what it's called now, the Elgato Cam Link for my stream, but I do also go on sites like AliExpress and Amazon Haul, and I do like to buy their very cheap capture cards just to see what they're like. But again, I think in some ways, if you do buy something that is more commonly used, you probably will have better results, and they'll just be a little bit more reliable. Okay, so there is that. And again, just I guess the other thing too is just be mindful of what your computer is capable of as well. Because I think there are a lot of people using old computers that are trying to do a little bit too much with OBS, and you know, it's crashing. So again, just depends on what your use case is and what you're trying to do. All right. So I am curious because I don't have a lot of questions coming forth. Are there any cool things, either Saeed or Business Growth Ready, think cool things that you like to do in OBS that you think are fun or impressive? Because I think that's once you show the average, you know, webcam meeting person some fun visual effects, I think they get really excited about that. And I do love the Move plugin. That's one of my favorites. And again, we kind of mentioned the pixelation earlier. That was really cool. And there are all kinds of transitions. And Saeed writes, I have a $15 capture dongle, good enough for me, as I only use it every once in a while for very basic stuff. Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things that, ooh, yes, this is a good one. So the small gear next to the virtual camera. Okay, so I'm going to pick a different source here, and I'm going to pick the sources one. Because I think this is a good, and I'm not sharing my screen. I'm that cliche in every meeting that Saeed is forever posting about because I'm a bit rusty. And again, this is going to be particularly problematic because the control panels are behind me, but I'm going to move it where you can actually see it. So over here, this is the control panels. If you don't see the control panels, go to your docs and just make sure controls is selected, because if I deselect it, it'll disappear and I can reselect it. And this is where a lot of the magic happens. So we have things like start streaming, start recording, start replay buffer, studio mode settings, and of course the start a virtual camera. So this is a really good call out from Saeed. And I guess like when we click on this configure virtual camera, we have a few different options. So the output type, program default, whatever's happening in the main feed of your OBS scene collection will be displayed to that. But we do also have preview, we do have scene and source. And this is a classic thing that if I want to use, in fact, this will get a bit meta, but I might actually do this now. I'm going to start the virtual camera on my other version of OBS. And what I've done over there is I've essentially picked scene, And I have a scene over here called John VC, which is literally John Virtual Camera. And it's just, I think it's just me in the background, but we'll find out in a second. And now I can actually bring in that virtual camera and go to a new source and go video capture device. And I'll say John's, can't even spell my own name today, VC. And I will go in and grab the Elgato virtual camera. Not the Elgato, the OBS one. There we go. So I actually have this as what's coming out of my virtual camera. And this can be really useful because back when I used to do the show with Sam and we used to use Video Ninja, I would sort of share my screen, which was the entire stream, but I would also have me as the virtual camera, so he could see me at all times. So even if we were like in the middle of a promo, you know, you could sort of see me nervously twitching or whatever had to be the case. And that's because I've got a specific scene, and that can be really useful, especially in, I probably should have clicked OK instead of the other, but anyway, that's fine. That can be really useful in very specific circumstances. So in this case, where I literally only have one camera set up, if I want to bring this into the portable version of OBS, it's kind of a way of cheating to do that really well. So I'm going to stop that virtual camera on the other side. So again, you could literally just have a scene that is just for your work meetings, and you could say, hey, this is my work meeting one, and I have this, and I open this up, and I just hit start virtual camera, and then it'll always be on that regardless of what else is happening here. So that's really, really very useful. It's a good call out, Seed. Thank you for that. So Seed writes, people don't know about that one, and if set incorrectly, switch between scenes, but nothing changes on the screen. Yes. And again, that's the classic thing that I often experience, is that I will forget that I've set this up for this very specific use case, and then I have to go back in and sort of go and change it to the program. Which is usually what I want to do. But again, it just depends on your use case. Say it's somebody that does a lot of Zoom meetings. I very rarely do any Zoom meetings. I do a lot of Microsoft Teams meetings, but again, even then, I literally just have a single scene in a scene collection that I use for that. It's not very elaborate, so that's something that's worth checking out. Let's, just really for my own amusement, probably more than anything else, I am curious to see what exciting new things have been happening in the plugin forum. And this was how I sort of discovered my last one. Advanced Scene Switcher has been updated very recently. This is something I know Sam uses a lot. I've never really had the need for this. But it is interesting. And again, you sort of set up these macros. If this happens, then do that. Which is literally what popped up on the screen. So you can do all different things. You can do supported conditions like audio, clipboard, date and time, display, MIDI. I always have a couple of MIDI Oh, wow, that was interesting. I don't know if you saw that. My camera glitched for a second after me telling you how great Elgato cam links are. I don't know what that's about, but anyway, it is probably because I've got so many versions of OBS doing weird things. But anyway, hopefully that doesn't happen again. All right. So yeah, I guess what I was saying before that happened is I always have some MIDI keyboards beside me, so I could potentially trigger some things by MIDI if I wanted to. That would be, I don't know how practical that would be, but potentially I could have, I don't know, I could switch to different scenes based on the keys I play on my keyboard. That would be kind of funny. Okay, so that one's there. That is interesting. So, Said writes, I discovered a plugin the other day that can save every audio source as a separate wave. Could be interesting for audio-only podcast. Yeah, that is interesting. I guess, and I probably bored you guys with this a million times, but I do really like the source record plugin. So let me see if I can just find that one really quickly. And I guess what I tend to do is that I'll have a scene for Sam and I'll have a scene for me, and I'll be recording those independently of the stream itself. Let me just try that again. So source record, and instead of everywhere, I will look at this category. So maybe the audio stems recorder is what Said's referring to, but this is the one I kind of like. And this gets the audio and the video and whatever else is going on in the scene. And yeah, so I like to have a number of different recordings, and even, so that's the audio stems recorder. The secret to perfect post-production: multi-track audio in OBS, isolated audio sources, flexible post-production, pro-grade mix control. Yeah. Capture when recording starts, stops. Capture when streaming starts, stops. And we've got an output folder there. And you can actually select which ones you want to record, which is handy. And you can even trim silence, which is interesting. I'm a bit of a control freak. I probably wouldn't. I don't know that I want to give up control in that way. So business go 30 rights. I saw the black cat. I think the glitch is in the Matrix. Yes. We often blame the Matrix for many, many different things. Yeah, so I mean, there are all kinds of cool plugins. You do kind of need to figure out how they're going to work in your workflow. And again, that's kind of the reason I like to default back to playing with them in a portable version first before I commit. Although moving forward, that's probably going to be a lot easier with the plugin manager. So like even, and I think I mentioned this earlier, but even for these streams, I do have a version of me that's just in a vertical scene with the ATEM vertical plugin. And I really only use that for recording because it does make cutting up shorts a lot easier. And I've also got like this, the main horizontal version of the stream. Sometimes I will also get an independent version of the screen capture. So I have a few different options, and it's just a matter of sort of lining those up and cutting them away. And, you know, obviously I like to use DaVinci Resolve for that, but you can use whatever you like. So yeah, it is interesting because I do like to sort of see what new plugins are available. In fact, let me just go back here. Forum. Plugins. Adjustment layer. That's intriguing. A transparent source that applies effects across all sources behind it. Ooh. I mean, that's something I'm very familiar with in DaVinci Resolve, but it's kind of interesting that you can do that. I'd be curious to see what kind of effects are involved in that one, but that's perhaps for another time. Advanced composite blur is really fun. In fact, composite blur. If I go back here for a second. Oh, I do actually have composite blur set up on this one already. So if I click this magical filter, you'll see that I suddenly go quite blurry. In fact, I might even make the pixel size larger. Oh. So that's something you can sort of turn on and off. It's a triangle, hexagonal try. That's interesting. Might make it a bit smaller though. Again, I don't know how useful a lot of these things are, but they are fun. And especially if you are in a meeting and you're just trying to make sure that people are still paying attention, it's fun to include those things. So Said writes, I get often asked about background removal for cameras without green screen. Personally, I don't need it, but I found background removal virtual green screen, which looks like a decent plugin. Yeah. I mean, I've done an entire show on some of the different options, and again, depending on the graphics card you have, you may actually have some some software that can do that for you really easily, but a lot of computers, especially older computers, probably don't have that. There are a whole bunch of different background removal tools. And again, I think like a lot of things in life, it's probably worth just trying them out to see what they look like. And the thing that I don't know, I do really like having the green screen, because even with the better tools, I do find they will just randomly cut some part of you or your microphone out of the scene in ways that are kind of unreliable, and if the light changes ever so slightly or you move too suddenly, that can be a problem. But we do have things like background removal. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm not finding that the search within this forum is giving me a lot of joy today. But certainly I know such things exist, so and maybe I need to sort by title, alphabetical. Because I imagine a lot of these start with the word background. So background removal, virtual green screen, and low light enhance might be a thing. Which of the many tabs that I've opened is that one? I think here. Okay. And I mean, they're definitely worth trying. And I guess the thing about yeah, that's a great point. So Said writes, I just search on Google OBS plugin XYZ. Brings me faster the plugins I need. Yeah, absolutely. So we do definitely have these. And again, they're worth trying out. You know, download them, install them, give them a go. I guess the thing about using one of these software tools is that you can you can choose to show your real background and then potentially bring those in as filters when you want to get rid of the background. So you do have that flexibility. You know, if you do want to do a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Reminded me a bit of QBert hexagon. Okay, I don't know what that is. I'm going to have to look up that later. Yeah, so I mean, we've got lots of plugins, and I think in some ways this is the thing I love about OBS, is that it is sort of modular and you can find solutions, and there are all kinds of developers out there doing really awesome stuff. Browser transition. A plugin for OBS Studio to show a browser source during scene transition. That's interesting. I'm not sure when I would use that, but use a browser source as a transition. Okay. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things to play with in there and learn. Chapter SRT for Premiere Pro. I do need to go back to chapter markers, and I guess, like, if you are recording in the hybrid MP4 option, they're much easier to use than they used to be. And you can actually, there's a way of bringing your video into DaVinci Resolve in a way that'll actually sort of treat those as different sections of the one video. It's probably something I need to explore again. Custom placeholder for virtual camera. This is something Said's given a tip about, that you can literally just go into your OBS installation and replace a single file. But it looks like, you know, this. Okay, so that the plugin doesn't do anything on Windows. Okay. Interestingly, it says it's supported on Windows, but it doesn't work on Windows. So, you know, it's often a good idea to read the fine print before you commit to some of these things, but there's a lot out there. And again, if you have any interesting plugins you think I should check out in a future show, please let me know in the chat, because I would love to play with those. This has been a slightly less organized stream than normal, but I hope it's been useful, and it's great to have your company again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I think I've got a button for that. Let's find out if it works. What do you know? It doesn't work. I'm going to pretend to be shocked. In fact, let me fix that really quickly, because that's going to annoy me. So fingers crossed. There we go. Like and subscribe. I don't know why that's such a persistent issue in OBS. That really annoys me, because all it does, and I think is a disconnect between Stream Deck and OBS, because it literally is just a video file that is unhidden, plays on the visibility being changed, and then goes away again. But I've clearly done something wrong. But anyway, thank you so much for being here. I hope to do more live streams. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you again very, very soon. Have a great week. Have a great weekend when you get there.